So in all of our programs, there you go. In all of our programs, we always encourage self-care. So while we are coming together for community building and support and celebration, we also encourage you to take care of yourself. And that can mean a lot of different things. In terms of addiction recovery, that might mean some concerns about anonymity. So please manage your camera on or off, manage your name in any way that is comfortable for you. And we don't have a break built into the agenda. So take a break for whatever reason that you might need at any time that you might need it. In terms of confidentiality, also an important piece of self-care. As we say in program, who you see here and what you hear here, when you leave here, let it stay here. My colleague, Nina Henry, is on the program tonight, and she's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have a tech issue or a question or a concern or feel like you need some support, please reach out to Nina Henry directly through the chat and she will assist you. And I will run through our agenda quickly and then we'll get started. We're going to begin with Rabbi Joseph from Beit T'shuvah giving us a teaching on Judaism and recovery and gratitude. And then we'll hear from Kathy, a community member in long-term recovery, who's going to share her experiences with gratitude in recovery. Everyone that's participating will go into breakout rooms then for about 15 minutes. You'll be randomly and automatically assigned, and that'll give you all an opportunity to talk about your own experiences of gratitude in recovery with each other. Then we'll invite Rabbi Joseph to come back and teach us some specifically Jewish gratitude practices that support recovery. And we'll wrap up with my colleague Nina again. She will be singing the blessings over the candles and lighting the candles. And if you would like to join in the candle lighting, if you brought your Hanukkah, your menorah, and your candles, you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to join Nina in singing the blessings. Although we're going to stay muted because I think we all probably know by now what it sounds like when a group tries to sing together unmuted on Zoom. And it usually isn't pretty. All right, so with that, I think that's all of the housekeeping. I will step off and turn things over to Rabbi Joseph, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. Rabbi Joseph is a Jewish Persian cowboy born in Dallas of Iranian immigrants. Joseph currently serves as the interim community rabbi and a spiritual counselor and the manager of the Elaine Bresler Institute at Beit T'shuvah in Los Angeles. Beit T'shuvah being a residential addiction treatment program that fuses Jewish spirituality with 12-step, and it brings people into recovery and helps them to live better lives. He's also an award-winning filmmaker and an avid meditator. He lives in LA with his wife and his wonderful 2 children. And I'm so thrilled that Rabbi Joseph could join us tonight. I look so forward to learning with you. And Rabbi Joseph, take it away.
Thank you so much. Okay, so here I'm staring at a big screen of myself right now. So hold on, there we go. Now I can see everybody else. Hi, thank you, Beth. I'm so excited to be here. A little bit of gratitude on my part for you, Beth, and everybody over at JCFS Chicago for all the work that you do. And one of the quotes that I think about a lot is there's a line by Leslie Frieger. He says, "Any fool can run towards the light. It takes a master with great courage to walk into the darkness and shine his or her light there." And I think what you and everybody as a partnering organization, right, is walking into the darkness and holding a light to the incredible services that are needed in our communities all over the world. And it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to collaborate with you. It's an honor to learn with you and everybody else. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and happy Hanukkah, everybody. I'm gonna speak for a little while. I have some source sheets, and it's kind of weird to not have some questions, but hopefully we'll be able to get to a point where I'd love to hear from you at some point too. And I was asked to talk about gratitude. So part of the piece that I'm also a UCLA Bruin. I went to college at UCLA, and so I have a lot of fondness with John Wooden. And if you don't know him and his, the pyramid of success, John Wooden was probably the greatest coach of all time. 88 wins straight, 10 national championships, 27 years of UCLA career, and he came up with this pyramid of success. Of if anybody wants to have some success in any goal, they kind of need to have these certain qualities. And he said the as you grow greater and higher, right, these attributes take on a new level of your competitive greatness, for instance. And one of the things that stood out when I read his book was he talks about the cornerstones: enthusiasm and industriousness. Okay, he said if for any endeavor into success, the two most important pieces are how enthusiastic you are and whether or not you're going to be a hard worker, right? If I have a goal, if I want to accomplish something, if I want to do something, if I want some form of success, I have to be excited, motivated, and I got to bust my ass. I got to really work hard on whatever that goal is. And thinking of those two pillars, right, of that pyramid, one of my teachers at rabbinical school, Rabbi Elliot Dorff, he put it this way. He said, if any of us, what are the two cornerstones of living a spiritual or a religious life? Is gratitude and awe. That if we are really in recovery, right, if we are trying to live by a certain code, a certain way of being that is connected to something greater than ourselves, if we want to really be doing Jewish, the two fundamental things we need to be doing all the time, most important, is how do we cultivate a sense of gratitude, which the rabbis call hakarat hatov, which is really recognizing the good, and being in a state of awe, of being in a state of wonder, or what Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel called radical amazement, right? And I want to kind of frame the talk tonight around those two, because I think they go hand in hand. We just lit Hanukkah candles here at Beit T'shuvah, and I was asking, a couple of residents, what's gratitude in recovery for you? And Addie, one of our employees, she said, gratitude is what helps you see the light. Gratitude is what helps you see the light. So I just love that, because, and I'll share some personal stuff too, and I'll share this personal story. I don't know if you know what a catalytic converter is. Okay, this weekend was the second catalytic converter that was stolen from my wife and I's Prius, right? So in the last 6 months, we've had 2 catalytic converters stolen in front of our house. And I find myself frustrated, angry, resentful, not trusting of my neighbors, not trusting in humanity, finding myself to be a victim and want to backlash and take it out on somebody else. And I think that's a normal reaction for many of us for whatever difficulties life might bring us, whatever challenges happen to us. And I can choose, do I want that resentment to fester? Do I want to allow that to let my blood boil? Do I want to nurture that part of myself? And where does that lead me, right? Because like we say, resentments are the #1 killer in recovery, right? Resentments are allowing somebody to live rent-free in our minds, right? It is an opportunity to scapegoat and blame everybody else for whatever personal issues I might have. Or can we have a little bit of wonder and gratitude, right? Can I approach this instance, this situation, with a different perspective? Okay, thank God I have a car. Thank God we have some finances that we can get it repaired. Thank God I have insurance. Thank God nobody was hurt, right? Thank God, thank God, right? And practice a different way of living. And that has changed. I don't know about you, but just by saying that out loud, I'm a little calmer now. My anger, my frustration, it's still there, but there's a softer feel to that experience. And I think this is where Rabbi Heschel has an incredible line. So I'm going to go back to my source sheet. Source #1 over here. Everybody can see this? Good? Okay. So Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, in God's Search of Man, he says, the surest way to suppress our ability to understand the meaning of God and the importance of worship is to take things for granted. Indifference to the sublime wonder of living is the root of all sin. All right, I love that last line. Indifference to the sublime wonder of living is the root of all sin. Okay, if I forget that I'm alive, if I forget that I have this incredible, magnificent world that is spinning around at 3,000 miles an hour, floating in space, that has unraveled for the last 13.8 billion years, and I'm on this earth for a glimpse, a moment of time. When I forget that, right? When I lose sight of the mere beauty and miracle that I'm alive, then I'm more likely to engage in an action that is separate from God, right? Heschel talks about a sin is an action that is devoid, that is cut off from a higher power, that is cut off from God, whereas a mitzvah, a sacred commandment, a good deed, is one where we're in collaboration, when we're in partnership with God. Right? So my ability, my awareness to live in wonder, to have a sense of grandiosity of the moment, of that I am a part of something greater than myself, transforms the moment in whatever might have happened to the potential of something great. Right? And again, there's this play of wonder and gratitude, like Rabbi Joseph was talking about, right? I have to, can I get out of myself? Can I get out of my lower thinking, of my anger, my emotions that might get the best of me, to pause and look up, be in wonder, practice gratitude, take a breath, whatever that might be in the moment, and then appreciate, come back to the baseline that I'm alive. And by default, I'm alive, I'm grateful. And now, okay, how do I want to be in the world? What do I want to do? How do I want to respond? And I don't know about you, but I wasn't taught how to do that. Anybody taught how to do that, really? Why, right? Like, I think we've missed the mark in a lot of ways of what a religious life is. What does living Judaism really mean? Can we get back to being grateful and living in wonder? And from there, we have a different way of being in the world and a different way of shining our light. Because if you think about the Hanukkah story, which it's third night, I mean, think of the first Hanukkah, where you walk into a temple and it's nothing but destruction. Where you walk into your house, where it is the main sanctuary, where it is said that God resided there, right? It is a physical space where God's presence lived. And it is ransacked and it is destroyed. And all there is left is one little vial of oil. And we talk about the miracle of Hanukkah, that oil lasted 8 days, right? That's the story. We all know the story, hopefully. That's the basic element. I think about the people who are in the room. And what was the conversation like? What was the conversation like in that moment? What should we do right now? And I think the real miracle is that they chose to light the candles in the first place. It's not that it lasted 8 days. Okay, that's a miracle. Great. Fantastic. I don't know if I believe in miracles in that way. I think the miracle of seeing destruction, seeing chaos, seeing, for whatever reason, what life has done to us, seeing the darkness that is enveloping us in the world, and the choice to say, despite this, I am going to light. I'm going to create light. I mean, that is miraculous. Marianne Williamson, too, the writer Marianne Williamson, she talks about this. She says, anytime we can transform fear into love, that's a miracle. So I think for me and for recovery, right? One of the things that the big book talks about in the appendix 2 and the very end of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is that the one thing that shuts us down, that is the ultimate proof without, I should probably read it because I'm paraphrasing right now. It is the answer to anything to prove that you will not grow, right? Is contempt prior to investigation. If we have ourselves closed off, if we have ourselves closed off to the potential of miracles, the potential of what we have, if we are narrow-minded in what is going on in the moment, and we don't have this expansive, wondrous, awe-filled understanding of life in general, then yeah, we're stuck. We're not going to have a spiritual awakening. We're not going to be open to wisdom. We're not going to be able to listen to another person's story because I'm set. I know it. I'm done. And again, going back to what Addie said, gratitude is our capacity, what enables us to see the light. Can I be grateful for what I have? And I think I can go on and on and on, right? But this is like what comes up a lot with our residents is, yeah, but I did a practice and then I stopped and I forgot, and it's not, like I did it before. I had a gratitude practice, and I think the invitation, and I guess we can talk about it later when I get into some other details, and I'll talk about some practices later. But if it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. Meaning, if I can be grateful one moment today, great. I did it. I'm going to give myself credit, right? If I can be in wonder one moment today, fantastic. Give myself credit, and I'm going to move on and build upon that. And a lot of the residents, they laugh at me because my go-to is I do this. Like, look at that. Isn't that amazing? I can do this with my finger. Come on, everybody do this. Everybody do it right now, right? My finger works, right? This pointer finger, it works. So, like, I don't know, when was the last time you were grateful for being able to do this, right? Can we have a little bit of gratitude and wonder for like the incredible things that we forget about? And it's natural, right? It's gonna happen. I forget to do this all the time. But when I remember, can I really, really have that sense of real wonder, real amazement, real joy in that gratitude? And again, it shifts our whole perspective and narrative on how we then want to act in the world. Who's the person that we want to live? Who's the person we want to be? I think that's a good place to end. What do you think, Beth? Good?
Great. I have to say that the idea that if it's worth doing badly is now written down on a piece of paper and it's going to go up on my wall.
Yeah.
The idea of at least doing it badly rather than not doing it at all has great worth and value, is very powerful. And also the idea of the miracle of Hanukkah not being the 8 days, but rather the choice to light, to create light at a moment of darkness.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You know, can I just add one more thing? Now I forgot it. Never mind, it went away.
All right. Well, you have another chance later. Thank you. Thank you for that teaching. Thank you so much. So grateful you're here. All right. So now we are going to invite Kathy to share her stories and her experiences and her practices of gratitude in recovery. Kathy, thank you so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us.
Thanks, Beth. My name is Kathy, and I am an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is July 4th, 1982. I want to thank you for asking me to talk about this, Beth. When she put out the thing, I'm like, yes. And when I came to the program, I wasn't very grateful. When I got sober, I was entitled. I was a victim. Nothing could go right. Negative attitude, miserable, irritable, discontented. And my very first sponsor said to me not long into my recovery, every day when I talk to you, I want you to tell me 3 things you're grateful for. And I'm like, I have to come up with 3 things that I'm grateful for? I couldn't even think of one at that point. And it was really, really hard for me. And then she told me they couldn't be the same 3 things every day. So I had to come up with new things to be grateful for. And in the beginning, it was very, very hard. And over time, it got easier. And when I was about 6 months sober, I joined a wanderers group. And one of the guys, his name was Bill, always used to say, a grateful alcoholic will not get drunk. And I'm like, this makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. And for a couple of years, he would say that, and I didn't have the courage to say, what do you mean? And when I was about 5 years sober, I went back to college, and he was a traveling salesman, and I was at school maybe 8 weeks, and he called me and said, I'm going to be down there on business. Let's have dinner. And I said, sounds good. So I took that opportunity and I said, what do you mean by this? I don't understand it. And he said, well, I drank to numb my feelings and to fill an emptiness inside me. And when I practice gratitude, I feel that emptiness inside me. And that removes the desire to drink, but it also makes me want to get out of myself and give back, because I am so grateful for what I have. So that for me was really the start of my gratitude journey, because then I understood a purpose for gratitude. It wasn't just, just say these lists. I've tried all sorts of different things. I did the lists. I had a sponsor at one point that had us do Yahoo groups. I had a Yahoo group where we'd post daily. And I did that very, very religiously. And then I found out she didn't even bother to read them because she felt what we wrote was fluff. So I stopped doing it. And for a while there, I kind of coasted. I'd say, yeah, I'm grateful. And then about 8 years ago, the rabbi at my synagogue held a class on prayer and meditation. And she told us she started her day out with Moda Ani, which the prayer, probably most of you know, but I'll say it. Moda Ani lefanecha melechai v'kayam shehechazarta b'nishmati b'chemla rabba amunetecha. And the translation is, gratefully, I acknowledge you. Your spirit lives and endures. You return my soul to me with compassion. How great is your faith in me? So I start out my day, I thought, I'll try it. I start out my day by saying, I'm grateful. I start out by framing my day that way. And I thought I'll do it for 30 days. Well, I have rarely missed it since those first 30 days, because it became a pattern for me. Gratitude to me is like exercise. It's a muscle I have to exercise. I have to keep practicing gratitude. I have to learn new ways to practice gratitude so that it can grow. And if I don't do it for, if I miss a day once in a while, it's one thing. But if I don't do it for an extended period of time, I'll go back to being miserable and irritable and discontented, and I don't want that. But what's happened for me, because initially I just said the prayer and it was rote. And then all of a sudden I realized one day, I wake up, my cat will, sometimes when I'm saying Moda, my cat will walk up and put a paw on me, and I touched his paw. And I thought, how lucky am I? I am alive when I should be dead because of the way I treated my body when I was drinking. I'm sober. I'm in a comfortable bed. I have a roof over my head. I have heat in the winter and air conditioning in the summer. I have clothes to wear. I have indoor plumbing with hot and cold running water. I have food. I have the equipment to cook that food. I have knowledge to cook it, whether I'm a great cook or not. I won't starve. I have a clothes washer so that I can have clean clothes. And it started coming to me. And every day I kind of run through that, because you know what? Just starting there, I have so much to be grateful for. And then I get up and go about and do my day. And on the days that I forget, I'll know something's off and I'll stop and I'll do it. And it turns my thought process around. And then about 6 years ago, I joined a Facebook group that was called Gratitude Circle, and people would post gratitude, and it's not all people in recovery. And after about a year, the woman who was running it said, well, I'm not doing this anymore. The group's folding. And there were a couple of renditions of the group, and one of the groups that formed were the people that I felt the most connected to. And so I've stuck with that group. And during COVID, one of the women who she now lives in Torquay, but she lived just outside of Melbourne, Australia, because they were in complete lockdown. Here in Illinois, we were in complete lockdown. She started doing a meditation and breath work course on Sunday nights. And we would spend an hour, hour and a half. There were a whole group of us that would spend an hour, hour and a half doing prayer and meditation. and talking about things we were grateful for. So it was something that was added to my practice. Now that has gone away because once things opened up, we're in completely different time zones. They're still doing it, but I am not willing to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be on a Zoom call on a weekly basis. I love them. And occasionally I've woken up at 3 or 4 when it's taking place and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to be on there, and I join them. But gratitude for me has become a way of life. You know, and as the rabbi said, when I'm facing difficult things, I don't always go to gratitude, but it doesn't take me long to get there. On Yom Kippur this year, the morning of Yom Kippur, I landed in the emergency room with bronchitis, and I was in the hospital for 3 days. I was scared to death because I was having trouble breathing, but I was scared to death because I hadn't been in the hospital since I was born, and which I'm very grateful for. But, you know, I had heard horror stories. And it wasn't long after I got there that I was truly grateful for circumstances. A friend of mine took me to the emergency room, who is my medical contact. So she was able to answer all of the questions during registration. I was grateful that they got me into a room right away. They got me on oxygen right away, that the people who were caring for me were caring and compassionate, that I had insurance. So I was already seeing the silver lining in this really rotten situation. And I could not express my gratitude more for the gentleman that I met in the middle of the night that night, who I'm trying to think of what he was called, my respiratory therapist, because he recommended something that was not medicine per se, but a treatment that was non-medical, that turned me around 180 degrees starting right away, you know, and I praised him all over the place because I was so grateful for what the tool he gave me, you know. Do I have bad times? Yes. Do I do this perfectly? No. But I always seem to find something to be grateful for, you know, and when the rabbi talked about the wonder, I have this thing for bunny rabbits. I don't collect them, but I love the rabbits in nature. And every year I have rabbits in my yard, and I'll look out in my backyard and I'll see one of the little babies, a bun bun. And I'll be like, well, hello, bun bun. And the next thing out of my mouth is, thank you, God, for blessing my yard with bunny rabbits, which sounds silly, but I love them and I love watching them grow. And there's that wonder and that awe there for me. Or a sunset, you know, I'll be like, oh, thank you, God. I just, it's there. And it grows over time. And I'm always open to learning new things about it, because maybe something new will click. You know, if I wasn't open to it, I wouldn't get it. I'm going to close, but I want to close with a not Jewish quote. It's from Rumi, but it really fits for me. Wear gratitude like a cloak, and it will feed your every corner of your life. I'm going to repeat that. Wear gratitude like a cloak, and it will feed every corner of your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for sharing your story and your experiences. I was really struck by how you described gratitude practice as an exercise, that you're building the muscle, and that you can, just like with exercise, you can miss a day here and there, but if you don't stick to if one doesn't stick to the routine, then it's so easily lost. I've had that experience as well. I had a gratitude app on my iPad, and I set it for notifications to remind me, and I was really good with it for a couple of weeks, and then the notifications became kind of annoying, and I stopped using that particular app. So your description as a necessary daily practice, like exercise, so that it can come more quickly in the harder times is a very powerful teaching. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, we're going to, with that beautiful example of sharing one story, move into breakout rooms now. You'll have about 15 minutes to talk with each other about your experiences of gratitude in recovery, your gratitude practices, your struggles with gratitude. And at the end of the breakout rooms, we'll all come on back. It'll automatically bring us all back together into the larger group, at which time I'll encourage you, if you'd like to share some of the more powerful things that you learned in the breakout room through the chat. So Cindy is going to assign everyone to a breakout room now. Back, everybody. So I would love to invite you to share in the chat anything that you found particularly meaningful or powerful about gratitude that you heard in the breakout rooms. And if anybody does share in the chat, we can read that out and we can print it and send it to you all later. So we'll take just a minute to see if anyone would like to do that. All right, it's not looking like a popular option. So I think we will move on then to having Rabbi Joseph come back and teach us some Jewish gratitude practices.
Okay. All right. Thank you for round two. And thank you, what was it, Cynthia, right? That was sharing her story. Kathy, there you are. Thank you so much for that. That was really fantastic. And I love the way I love how you ended with Rumi as the cloak of, right, gratitude as a cloak. It was beautiful. Because I think what you share are a lot of the typical gratitude practices that we talk about in Judaism, right? How do I wake up and I say Modani? How do I really be grateful? And I wanted to do something a little bit beyond that. I'm going to share a text that is not a Jewish text, not a Jewish source, but the idea and the concept is probably one of the most ultimate Jewish practices for gratitude in life. Okay, and it comes from, let's see here. So it's source number 4, The Habits of Love by Ed Bacon. And he shares this story. My friend and coworker, Theodora, introduced me to a transformative rubric for life that was developed by Betty Sue Flowers, an author and educator. In a conference that Theodora attended, the presenter asked everyone to write a brief outline of their autobiography in 3 different ways. First as a victim, then as a hero, and finally as a learner. Those are 3 very different stories with 3 very different energies and 3 very different outcomes. A victim feels the need to be defended, vindicated, or avenged. A hero needs justification, ego promotion, or validation. And a learner seeks illumination, correction, direction. Learners open themselves to discovering the new in every situation, particularly challenging times. So the practice, and I'm going to share the source. Beth has the source sheet and she can send it out to everybody. The practice that I really want to invite everyone to really do when we log off is to think of our stories. Think of our lives. Think of the top 5 difficult moments or maybe top 10 challenges of my life, and write the story as if I was a victim, right? As if it was nothing of my accord. Everything happened to me, right? and what I did in response as a victim, then and see what that feels like. All right, see what kind of narrative and novel, let's say, that creates. And then as a hero, as somebody who triumphs over all, that look at all these challenges I face, look at all these difficulties, look how powerful and amazing I am, and what a great motivational speaker I have become because of all these difficulties that haven't impacted me. I've overcome. And I think we're a society that doesn't like victims, right? Don't play the victim. We all do it, but we really give a lot of credit to heroes, right? Heroes are, look how many accomplishments I have. Look how good my resume is. Look at my, point to anything I want, right? But a victim narrative and a hero narrative are ultimately closed. They're not open. They're not living in gratitude and wonder, as we talked about. But if I can sit with the third way, right, of all the things that I have experienced, and I can ask, what is this here to teach me? What am I here to learn because of this? That's a gratitude, that's a narrative of curiosity, of openness, of allowing, really ultimately allowing God into the equation and allowing a power greater than ourselves to kind of guide us. That is very Jewish, right? We are the people of the book, right? We have a commandment when we, in the morning, before we even pray, there's a commandment to immerse ourselves in learning, okay? And I think for me, right, that is the ultimate gratitude practice. Because I can look at my experiences, I can see what is going on, like my catalytic converters that I'm really angry about. And I can say, oh, I'm learning how to deal with insurance right now. I'm learning what it's like to walk into enterprise rental car, and I'm learning to have a new car for, right? I'm learning all these things that I wouldn't have had the opportunity for if I would have just played the victim and played the hero like it's not going to bother me, right? What can we do to really learn, right? To ask ourselves, what am I open to? What am I willing to receive? And there's this fascinating study that Ari de Gauss, I don't know how to pronounce this person's name, but they did a 100-year study of businesses that stayed in business, that were successful over a longitudinal 100-year survey. And what they found was the companies that learned faster than their competitors thrived more and survived more. And think about, I want you to think about that, right? We're people who have been, for 2,000 years, been exiled. But what do? We learn. We sit and we learn. We have an incredibly strong ethic to ask questions, to pick up this Torah, this book that we comb over and over and ask, well, why this letter and not that letter? Our capacity to learn and be in a learner mentality ultimately gives us that path to choose in a way that brings us back to a different open exploration of what life's circumstances befall us. And I'll share how much time, how long can I go to, Beth?
You can go all the way up to 8:20 if you'd like.
8:20. Oh, wow, that's a long time. Okay, I don't have that much.
Okay.
There's a wonderful story, and I'm also including this in the source sheet, right? So it's source 3, by Rabbi Akiva. It was, and I'll say, Rabbi Akiva would always say one must accustom oneself to say everything that God does, he does for the best. Now, I don't know about that. I don't necessarily believe that piece, okay? Everything that God does, it's for the good. All right, okay, maybe, let's see, hold on. But he tells this story. When Rabbi Akiva was walking along the road and he came to a certain city, he inquired about lodging, and they did not give him any. And he said, everything God does for the best. Kol da'avid Rahmana letav aved, right? In Aramaic, if you want that. So he went and slept in a field, and he had with him a rooster, a donkey, and a candle. A gust of wind came, and there goes the candle. A cat came, maybe the name was not T'shuvah, or that's your dog, or Tzav, right? A cat came and ate the rooster. A lion came and ate the donkey. And here's Rabbi Akiva saying, everything that God does, he does for the best. And what happens that night? An army comes and took the city into captivity. And it turned out the only Rabbi Akiva was the one who was not in the city, had no candle lit, had no noisy rooster or donkey to give away his location. And he says to them, did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? Everything God does for the best. Now, I think there's a hero narrative in this, right? This is a potential pitfall, and I think sometimes maybe we see this in our communities. Baruch Hashem, whatever happens, God does for the best. It's going to be okay. I'm not encouraging that kind of that not to feel grief, right? Not to feel the pain that we feel for losing the light, losing the donkey, losing the rooster, losing the catalytic converter, right? But the attunement, the willingness to say, okay, I'm not going to be a victim from this. I'm not going to be a hero from this. And I'm going to say, okay, there is a potentially a bigger purpose. I can't see it right now. I'm in it. I am in pain. I am in grief. But if I can ask, what's the reason? If I can ask, how is this potentially going to help me help somebody else? How am I going to be able to grow from this? Then down the road, at some point in the distance, at some point in the future, when we can look back at those moments and have gratitude for them. And I can speak to this very personally, because, and I don't always share this, but I share this, I do share this publicly. March 17th, 2003, one of the days the United States declared war on Iraq, I checked myself into the UCLA psych ward on the 3rd day of my first manic episode, right? Just like Joseph thrown into the pit, that was my bottom, right? That was my pit of shame, confusion, not understanding the world. And of course it wasn't easy. Of course I had no gratitude for that in the moment. I was full of shame. What was wrong with me? Why me? Right? And now, after where that journey has led me, after really devoting a large portion of my life to figure out why, what was going on, what is it? How do I live a life of well-being, really? How do I live spiritually well and not put substances in my body that are going to potentially create some form of madness, which is what that was. That's led me to where I am now, which I never would have thought I'd be sitting here talking to you as a rabbi working for a Jewish recovery, a treatment facility here. And I think about that now, and the narrative has shifted that I'm grateful, because that was the launching pad to my calling. That was the beginning of me living my real life, that I was to be a rabbi, to live a Torah of hope, healing, and connection. And I don't know if I wouldn't have suffered in that regard, if I wouldn't have experienced that, I don't know. I know for sure my life would have been very different, but I don't know I'd be here right now with you. And I'm really happy to be here right now with you. And I'm really happy to be able to see that my life and my story is I'm able to connect with others, and I'm able to walk with them through the darkness and be a Shamash, right? Which is my name. And to help others create light and be light. So if we can turn it into, what am I learning from this? I think that can be some of the greatest change and really catalyst for change, that really our tradition is saying, you want to change? Our Torah is the instrument to change. Engaging in the process of learning is the greatest mechanism to changing individuals, families, and the world. So happy Hanukkah. Let's continue to learn together. I'm so grateful for you, everybody, for being a part of here and taking time out to really learn. And Nina's got Hanukkah candles. They're ready to go. Look at that.
Shikoach.
Thank you.
Asher Koach. Thank you, Rabbi Joseph.
My pleasure.
And I do see Nina ready there with her candles. If anyone else wants to get your candles ready. Cindy, if you can hear me, if you can put up the slide with the first blessing. All right, take it away, Nina.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah.
Cindy, the next one. Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem ba'azman hazeh. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Happy Hanukkah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nina. All right, so we're wrapping up our program now. I would love to invite everyone to think if you have a question for Rabbi Joseph or for Kathy. I see something here in the chat that I'll read out. Oh, a few things. Let's see. In the breakout room, it was nice to have an opportunity to hear yet another story and be there for someone else, even if just for a few minutes to listen. And then here, if anyone would like to learn more about the Jewish men's groups I mentioned in our breakout room, you can contact me. Okay, so I will include this information in the email that I will be sending to everybody in the next couple of days. It will include the source sheets from Rabbi Joseph and that information on the Jewish men's group and other resources for Jewish recovery. We also have, Nina, if you haven't done, please do so, put in the chat a link for an evaluation. We take your feedback very seriously to improve our programming and for ideas for future programs. So I'd love it if you would take a moment to, oh, I see Andrea put it there. If you would please click the link and do the evaluation for us. I want to say thank you again to Rabbi Joseph. I guess one of the gratitudes for COVID is that we have the opportunity to be online together more regularly and bring people in from around the country, and to bring Rabbi Joseph zooming in from Los Angeles with us tonight. Thank you again to Kathy for sharing your story. Really wonderful to see you and to be with you virtually. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Happy Hanukkah. Be well, be safe, and good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.